This video demonstrates the first stage of the transformations of sitting for this boy 12 months later. So this is him sitting at the bench, so what could be called an edge sitting. One can see that the level of support has already changed. If you look at the supporting arms, they are not at the level of the chest anymore as they used to be. They are significantly lower at the level of the lower ribs. And at the same time, if we are to compare it with the previous picture, one can see a significant difference in overall control of all the elements of the body. This way we can talk about the changes at the level of the head control, shoulders, trunk all together. Let's have a closer look. You see, the boy is trying to use his arm without having it rigidly stuck. The boy is trying to move his head, again having some room for movement. But this is just the beginning. And therefore, what is happening, once he comes out, just out of this central sitting position, he drops downwards, and you can see he loses his balance. He works hard to get back to the position. Once he does it, one can see how stiff the arms get, but this is an obvious difference from before anyway, because in the past we've seen the arms going into this W position. In the past he was falling like a block without being able to counter react. I just want you to follow these lines, right? They're all just coming together at the same angle through the fall. And now we can see that he's starting to really work and come out of the position, right? We can see that he has to work hard to get back to the position, but this fact of actually being able to work, that's an important transition. That's an important illustration of both the improving mobility and developing strength. Although, of course, at this stage, we can see that he really helps himself with his arms and with his head. But again, that's a huge difference from the past, where he was just throwing himself backwards. So we can see that he has managed to come out of the major constraint of that incredible stiffness. He has developed some room for movement, which is the important transition, and he has gained a certain initial space for confidence. A very important tool of the visual aid would be to draw something that could be called an elementary cone of support, inverted cone of support, where the base would be the platform of sitting, and within that cone one has to look at all of the directions, pointing out the directions of the adjustments and the ability to counterbalance that this boy needs, or to be precise, any person needs. So that's reflecting the rotational, forwards, backwards, left and right. And now once we visualize this cone, you can see that he is able to control a small part of this cone, right? Within this initial cone, with a very narrow base, he is confident. But to be able to control the sitting really well, he needs a much larger cone, which is depicted as red here. So therefore, essentially, what do you want to achieve? We want to develop this cone. So in this image, I believe, would be very helpful to you to understand the way that this transformation takes place. So once he is out of his cone of comfort, he is dropping. Once he is in it, he is able to do things, and you can see the starting basics, his ability to move his head selectively, initial transitions, which is a major step comparing to the past, where he was just fused. And let's observe his movements further. Obviously, his level of confidence in the sitting position has improved, so he's showing dynamism. But you can see that as he's showing this dynamism, instead of being just blocked and stuck, elements are moving, the legs are starting to move within the pelvis, you have large movements of the arms, you have certain room for the movement of the head, but you can see that at this stage, the available hand movements, arm movements are still relatively primitive, all right? You can see that the elbow is not really working and moving. He is able to do this large swing of the fake straight arm, or to be precise, of the unbendable arm. And you see, as he shifts very clearly within that cone that I've just drawn. And you see, I'm getting back to this important test, the movement of the head. Again, the changes are obvious. He is not yet controlling it, but at least we can see that the rigid position of the arms that we've seen before is less pronounced. You see, he was just moving as the unit previously, having his arms being pulled upwards even more. And again, this is the result of the deliberate work. Within the ABR program, this work has been focused on strengthening, on the development of the strength of the compartments of the body, of the trunk, of the neck, of the connections, shoulder level, and so on. So this is the focus that we had. So we are zooming in on the body, and we are seeing that clearly there is a room for movement that starts appearing between the rib cage and the pelvis. We go further, we see that at the level of the back, he is starting to show some initial rotational mobility. So his flexibility from a completely fused back has changed. That's the image from the past, where things were completely blocked at all of those levels. You see, it's hard to read anything. It was hard to read anything because he was so poorly segmented. Whilst now we can see that he's starting to show a specific shape and being able to have this passive mobility in the both rotationally to the left and to the right. So these tests, they are the ones that describing and explaining why he has improved so much in his overall stability in sitting. So this test shows you some remaining challenges. So this is a very simple test. Head is being moved from position on the back, and I want you to have a look at this particular level. So as he is being moved, watch the level of the abdomen and the rib cage here. What is happening? The head movement at this stage, right, in the beginning, this is a real head movement, but going further, it's no longer a head movement. It's the fold of the rib cage into the abdominal space. So this is what we describe as compressional weakness. Let's have a close look. You see, that's what's happening. A rib cage folds into itself and then folds into the abdominal space. In the past, we have seen just the immediate collapse, like immediate conflict between the pelvis and the rib cage in this region. Now he's starting to have some initial space, and that's why he's being much better movable than before. And of course, getting back to the sitting itself, what we want to see, improving room for movement for each and every of the inverted cones, right? The inverted cone of the head, the inverted cone of the trunk, and the inverted cones of the arms. And then the formation of the sitting platform. So in the next stage, that's what we would be looking for. This is what our goals are, right? Thank you. Let's watch the next part.